Imagine opening your eyes tomorrow and realizing that the solid, familiar world around you has vanished. The walls, your hands, the screen in front of you, all dissolve into vast, shimmering spaces filled with tiny vibrating points. Clouds of probability and invisible forces pulling and pushing everything at once. This is not science fiction. This is what the world would actually look like if your eyes could see atoms. Atoms are not miniature billiard balls neatly stacked together. They are mostly empty space, governed by electric fields, quantum rules, and constant motion. More than 99.999999% of everything you see is emptiness. Yet your brain translates that emptiness into solidity, stability, and certainty. The first question is not what the world would look like, but why your brain never allows you to see it this way. The human visual system evolved not to reveal reality, but to help you survive it. Your eyes are not windows to the universe. They are biological sensors connected to a predictive machine called the brain, a system optimized for speed, not truth. Photons hit the retina, electrical signals travel through the optic nerve, and your brain constructs a model of the world that is useful enough to keep you alive. It fills gaps, smooths noise, ignores overwhelming detail, and presents a simplified interface. If you could see atoms, this interface would collapse. You would not see objects. You would see vibrating lattice of nuclei surrounded by fluctuating electron clouds. You would see air as a dense storm of molecules constantly colliding with your skin. You would see light not as smooth illumination, but as discrete packets of energy striking matter. And most likely, you would not function at all. The brain has limits for a reason. Perception is not passive observation, it is active interpretation. Neuroscience shows that more than half of what you see is prediction generated internally by your brain. The visual cortex is constantly guessing what should be there based on memory, context, and expectation. This is why optical illusions work and why two people can see the same scene and experience it differently. If atomic-scale information flooded your senses, the brain's predictive systems would be overwhelmed. Stress circuits in the amygdala would activate, attention networks would collapse, and decision-making would slow to a halt. What you call reality is actually a controlled hallucination, one that keeps sensory chaos at bay. At the atomic level, matter is never still. Atoms vibrate even at absolute zero due to quantum zero-point energy. Electrons do not orbit nuclei like planets. They exist as probability distributions, meaning you can only describe where they might be, not where they are. If your eyes could resolve this, every object would appear fuzzy, unstable, and alive with motion. A table would not look hard. It would look like a dynamic force field held together by electromagnetic repulsion between atoms. When you touch something, you are not feeling contact. You are feeling the repulsive force between electron clouds. Your brain translates that force into the sensation of solidity. Biology hides physics behind sensation. This is not a flaw, it is an adaptation. From an evolutionary perspective, seeing atoms would be useless. You do not need to know electron wave functions to hunt, build, or communicate. The brain evolved to compress information aggressively. Psychologists call this efficient coding. The brain reduces the infinite complexity of the world into manageable symbols: object, threat, face, motion. These categories are shortcuts that allow fast reaction. Seeing atoms would destroy these categories. A predator would dissolve into trillions of particles indistinguishable from the ground beneath it. Survival would become impossible. This is why your perceptual limits are not weaknesses. They are protective filters. Stress research shows that the brain constantly balances information intake with cognitive capacity. When input exceeds processing ability, the brain triggers stress responses to narrow attention and reduce detail. If atomic vision were forced upon you, your nervous system would likely shut down higher perception entirely. You would freeze. This is similar to what happens in extreme sensory overload or psychedelic states, where perception becomes hyper-detailed but meaning collapses. People report seeing patterns, vibrations, and interconnectedness, but also confusion and loss of self-boundaries. The brain can temporarily loosen its filters, but it cannot live without them. Neuroplasticity allows the brain to adapt, but only within limits. Even if you gradually learn to see atoms, your brain would have to invent new abstractions to remain functional. You would not see raw reality forever. You would build a new interface on top of it. This reveals a deeper philosophical insight. Reality as you experience it is not the world itself, but a user interface. Just like a computer desktop hides binary code behind icons and folders, your perception hides quantum chaos behind chairs and trees. The interface is not a lie. It is a translation. And like any translation, it sacrifices detail for usability. When physics tells us that matter is mostly empty space, it does not mean the world is an illusion. It means solidity is an emergent property, arising from interactions at scales your brain chooses not to display. You are not separate from this process. You are part of it. Your thoughts are electrical signals moving through neural networks. Your memories are patterns of synaptic strength. Your sense of self is a model generated by the brain to coordinate behavior. In this sense, you are already an energy system interpreting other energy systems. Seeing atoms would not make the world more real. It would make it less meaningful. Meaning arises from patterns, not particles. This is where the twist emerges. What you often interpret as limitation is actually intelligence. Your inability to see atoms is the reason you can see beauty, faces, purpose, and coherence. The brain protects you from the true strangeness of reality so you can act within it. Even at the psychological level, this principle holds. The brain filters emotional information just as it filters sensory data. It suppresses overwhelming thoughts, memories, and anxieties to maintain stability. When these filters fail, as in anxiety disorders or trauma, reality becomes too intense. The mind feels fragile, but in truth, it is fighting to restore balance. The same is true at the perceptual level. If you could see atoms, you would lose the illusion of separateness. You would see that boundaries are not fundamental. Your body would blow into the air, exchanging molecules with every breath. The idea of a solid, isolated self would dissolve. Some philosophies and quantum interpretations suggest this interconnectedness is the deeper truth. But the brain does not operate at the level of ultimate truth. It operates at the level of function. It gives you just enough reality to move, choose, and survive. This raises an unsettling question. If your perception is a constructed interface, how much of what you believe is also a construction? Just as you do not see atoms, you do not see all causes, motives, or possibilities. Your beliefs are shaped by neural shortcuts, cognitive biases, and emotional filters. Understanding this is not meant to make you cynical. It is meant to make you curious. Science does not strip meaning from the world. It shows you how meaning is created. If you could see atoms, the world would look less solid, less stable, and less human. But you would also glimpse a deeper layer of reality, one where everything is process, motion, and relationship. Physics, neuroscience, and philosophy converge here. The universe is not a collection of things. It is a network of interactions. Your brain sits inside that network, modeling a small, useful slice of it. The final insight is this. The fact that you cannot see atoms is not a failure of perception. It is the very reason perception works. Your brain's job is not to reveal the universe. It is to keep you alive long enough to think about it. And now that you know this, the real question is not what the world would look like if you could see atoms. The real question is how many other layers of reality your brain is currently hiding. Not because you are weak, but because you are human. If this idea changed the way you see perception, reality, or yourself, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like the video if it sparked your curiosity, and subscribe to MindSpark Science for more deep, science-driven explorations of the mind, the universe, and the hidden structures behind everyday reality.